One of the 5 MMA fighters shoved the old man's shoulder from behind, laughing as the quiet stranger's tea spilled across the table. And before the fighter's hand could pull back, Jackie Chan had already locked the wrist, twisted the arm downward, and guided the man's face gently but firmly into the tablecloth without spilling a single other dish. The restaurant went dead silent as 4 remaining fighters stared at the old man's calm eyes and realized they had made the worst mistake of their lives. What happened in the next 4 minutes would become restaurant legend, a story whispered about for decades. What happened in the next 45 minutes inside that restaurant would become Hong Kong legend, a story whispered about for decades. A story about 5 professional fighters who picked the wrong target, in the wrong place, on the worst possible night of their lives. Now let me take you there. It's a Friday night, late, past 11, one of those small seafood restaurants tucked into a side street in Kowloon, the kind of place with fluorescent lights and plastic tablecloths and the best salt and pepper shrimp you've ever tasted. The dining room holds maybe 15 tables, half of them are full, families finishing dessert, a couple sharing a beer, and in the far corner, sitting alone with a pot of jasmine tea and a newspaper folded beside his plate, there's a man in his mid-60s. He's wearing a dark baseball cap pulled low, a plain gray hoodie, loose black pants, and white sneakers that look like they've walked 10,000 miles. No jewelry, no watch, nothing flashy. He's eating quietly. Rice, some vegetables, a small dish of fish. He looks like any retired uncle you'd see on the street. Ordinary, invisible. And that's exactly what he wanted to be tonight. Now the door swings open and in walks Trouble. 5 guys, young, loud, built. They've got that energy, you know the kind, that post-gym, post-sparring, the whole world is our octagon energy. They're wearing matching track jackets from a local MMA gym, one of the more aggressive gyms in the area, the kind that trains fighters for underground circuits and small regional promotions. These aren't weekend warriors. These guys can fight. They've got cauliflower ears and knuckle scars and that walk, that wide-shouldered chin-up strut that says they want you to notice them. Believe me, the entire restaurant noticed. The leader of the group, and there's always a leader, was a guy I'll call Kai. He was maybe 28, 6'1", solid 220 pounds, with a shaved head and a neck tattoo of a dragon eating its own tail. He fought at welterweight before bulking up, had a 9-3 record on the regional circuit, and carried himself with the confidence of a man who'd never been humbled. Not once, not yet. Behind him came 4 others, a lanky kickboxer with reach for days, a stocky wrestler built low to the ground, a jiu-jitsu specialist with long arms and tape still wrapped around his left wrist, and the youngest, maybe 22, a striker who kept shadowboxing the air as he walked, throwing little jabs at nothing, bouncing on his toes. All 5 of them freshly showered from training, hungry, amped up, and looking for someone to impress. They grabbed the big round table in the center of the room. Chairs scraped across the floor. Voices boomed. Kai snapped his fingers at the waitress before she even had a chance to walk over. She brought menus. He didn't open his. He just ordered 4 bottles of Tsingtao and a plate of everything. Then he leaned back, spread his arms wide across the backs of 2 chairs, and surveyed the room. His eyes landed on the old man in the corner. Get this. The old man was minding his own business, completely. He hadn't looked up once since they walked in. He was sipping his tea, turning a page of his newspaper, existing in his own quiet world, and somehow that bothered Kai. "Yo," Kai said to his crew, jerking his chin toward the corner. "Look at Grandpa over there, eating alone on a Friday night. That's gonna be you in 40 years if you don't train harder." The table erupted in laughter. The kickboxer slapped the table. The young striker made a joke about the old man's sneakers. More laughter, loud enough that other tables started shifting uncomfortably in their seats. The old man turned another page. Kai wasn't done. Here's what nobody tells you about guys with Kai's personality. Being ignored is worse than being challenged. When you thrive on dominance, indifference is an insult. And this old man was radiating indifference the way a furnace radiates heat. Kai stood up. His chair squealed backward. He grabbed his beer bottle and walked over to the old man's table, standing right beside it, looking down. His shadow fell across the newspaper. "Hey, Uncle," Kai said. "You deaf or something? We're trying to have a good time over here, and you're sitting here all depressed. It's killing the vibe." The old man looked up, and here's where things got interesting. He didn't look scared. He didn't look angry. He looked the way a man looks when he's done this exact thing 1,000 times before. He looked patient. "I'm just having dinner," the old man said quietly. "Enjoy your evening." His voice was calm, low, the kind of calm that comes not from weakness, but from a reservoir so deep you can't see the bottom. Kai didn't recognize it. He mistook it for submission. That was his first mistake. "Just having dinner," Kai repeated to his boys over his shoulder, mocking the old man's tone. "Lonely old man, just having dinner." He turned back. "Where's your wife? Where's your family? Nobody wants to eat with you." Now here's where the power in the room started to shift. Just a fraction, just a crack in the glass that nobody could see yet. The old man set down his teacup. He folded his newspaper. He placed both hands flat on the table, fingers spread, and he looked directly into Kai's eyes. "Sit down," the old man said. Not a request, not angry, just 2 words delivered with the weight of absolute certainty. Kai blinked. For 1/2 second, something in the back of his brain, some ancient primate instinct that had kept his ancestors alive for 1,000,000 years, told him to listen, to back off, to recognize that the thing sitting in front of him was not prey. He overrode it. "What did you say to me?" Kai leaned down, planting both fists on the old man's table. "You telling me what to do? You know who I am? I fight for a living, old man. I could fold you with one hand." The wrestler and the jiu-jitsu specialist were on their feet now, moving closer, flanking. The kickboxer stayed seated but was watching with that eager, half-grinning expression of someone who smells blood. The young striker was still bouncing, still throwing little shadow punches. The restaurant owner, a woman in her 50s with reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, came out from behind the counter. "Please," she said, "no trouble. Please sit down." Kai ignored her. He grabbed the old man's teacup, the one the man had just set down, and held it up. "What are you drinking, Grandpa? Little tea? Little old man tea?" He turned it upside down. The remaining tea splashed across the table, soaking the newspaper, pooling around the fish plate. No swear on my life. The old man didn't move. He just watched the tea drip off the edge of the table onto the floor. Then he looked back up at Kai, and something changed in his face, something subtle. The patience was still there, but now it had company. Something harder, something precise. His jaw tightened, not anger, decision. He pushed his chair back and stood up. Now, standing, the old man was maybe 5'8", 160 pounds. He was giving up 5 inches and 60 pounds to Kai, and more to the wrestler. By every visible metric, this was a mismatch so absurd it was almost comedy. But the way he stood, I need you to understand this. The way he stood was wrong. Wrong for a scared old man, wrong for a civilian. His feet were shoulder-width apart, weight-centered, knees slightly bent. His hands stayed at his sides, but his fingers were relaxed, open, not fists, not defensive, just ready. It was the stance of someone who'd been in more rooms than this. The jiu-jitsu specialist noticed it first. He tilted his head, studying the old man's posture the way you study a math problem that doesn't add up. He put a hand on Kai's arm. "Hey, maybe we should just—" Kai shook him off. "Oh, you're standing up now?" Kai grinned. "What are you gonna do, Uncle? Tai Chi me to death?" He put his hand on the old man's shoulder and shoved, hard. That's when the teacup on the edge of the table, the one Kai had emptied, flew off and shattered on the tile floor. The room went quiet. Every single person in that restaurant froze. Chopsticks halfway to mouths. Conversations dead mid-sentence. Even the kitchen noise seemed to dim, because everyone could feel it. Everyone except Kai. The old man looked down at the broken cup. Then he raised his eyes, and for the first time that night he spoke more than a few words. "You broke her cup," he said, nodding toward the restaurant owner. "You should pay for that, and then you should leave." Kai laughed. He actually laughed. He turned to his crew. "This guy thinks he's in a movie." And that's when the old man reached up, calm as sunrise, and removed his baseball cap. I swear this happened. The restaurant owner was the first to recognize him. Her hand went to her mouth. She took a step backward and bumped into the counter. A family at the nearest table, the father grabbed his wife's arm and whispered something. The wife's eyes went wide, because the man standing in the corner of this tiny Kowloon restaurant, the man in the gray hoodie with tea dripping off his table, was Jackie Chan. Not a look-alike, not a tribute act. Jackie Chan. The Jackie Chan. The man who had done more stunts with his own body than any human being in the history of cinema. The man who had broken his nose 3 times, his ankle once, most of his fingers, his cheekbone, his skull. The man who had jumped off buildings, fought with ladders and chairs and refrigerators. The man who had been training in martial arts since he was 6 years old at the China Drama Academy, one of the most brutal training programs ever devised, where students were beaten for mistakes and drilled in kung fu, acrobatics, and combat for 10 hours a day. This wasn't an old man. This was a weapon that looked like an old man. Kai didn't recognize him. And that fact alone tells you everything you need to know about Kai's awareness, his intelligence, and his future. He was standing 3 feet from one of the most famous faces on the planet, and he had no idea. His friends, though, they were starting to figure it out. The jiu-jitsu specialist had gone pale. The wrestler had stopped moving forward. The kickboxer at the table had stopped grinning. But the young striker, the bouncy 22-year-old, he recognized Jackie immediately. And instead of backing down, his face lit up. "Yo, that's Jackie Chan," he shouted. "Bro, that's actually Jackie Chan." He started bouncing harder, throwing combinations in the air. "Yo, Jackie, you want to spar? I'll go easy on you, old-timer. Come on, movie star, show me something real." Mark this moment. This is where it goes from bad to catastrophic. Jackie looked at the young striker. Then he looked at Kai. Then he scanned the other three. He was reading the room, reading body language, reading distances and angles and threat levels the way a man does when he's spent 60 years learning how bodies move. "I don't want trouble," Jackie said. "I came here to eat. I just want to eat my dinner, pay my bill, and go home. Trust me on this." He meant it. Jackie Chan, for all his on-screen bravado, has always been a man who avoids real confrontation. He's talked about it in interviews. He doesn't want to hurt people. He's seen what trained hands can do to untrained bodies, and it bothers him. He carries that weight. But Kai had already crossed a line he couldn't uncross. "Jackie Chan," Kai said slowly, tasting the name. "The movie star, the guy who does fake fighting, choreography, dancing." He stepped closer. "That stuff doesn't work in real life, Uncle. You know that, right? I've been training MMA for 12 years. Real fighting, not movie nonsense. Your Kung Fu, your Wing Chun, your whatever, it doesn't work against this." He held up his fists. "This is real." There it was, his core belief laid bare. Movie martial arts are fake, his training is real, and the man in front of him was nothing but a performer. Jackie said nothing. He bent down slowly and picked up the 2 largest pieces of the broken teacup. He set them on the table, neatly, side by side. Then he straightened up and took 1 step to his left, away from the table, into open floor space. He wasn't squaring up, he was clearing room. "You should go," Jackie said. "All of you, right now." The restaurant owner had her phone out. She was dialing. Probably police, probably a manager, probably both. Several customers were filming on their phones. The family nearest the door quietly gathered their children and left. The young striker didn't care about any of that. He lunged. No warning, just a fast jab-cross combination aimed at Jackie's face, thrown with the speed and confidence of a kid who'd won his last 4 amateur fights. "Now pay attention." Jackie didn't block. He redirected. His left hand came up and guided the jab past his right ear, using the striker's own momentum to pull him forward and off balance. In the same motion, Jackie's right hand pressed against the kid's chest, a flat palm push that sent him stumbling backward 2 full steps. It wasn't violent. It was geometry. Angles, timing, leverage. The kind of technique that takes decades to make look that simple. The striker caught his balance. His face changed. The playfulness was gone. He threw a roundhouse kick fast, aimed at Jackie's midsection. Jackie dropped his weight, let the kick pass over his hip, and caught the kid's ankle on the return. He didn't yank it. He just held it, for 1 second, looking the kid in the eyes. Then he released it and stepped back. "Done?" Jackie asked. The kid attacked again, combination. Jab, cross, hook, low kick, fast, technical. And Jackie moved through it the way water moves around a rock. He wasn't fighting the kid. He was teaching him something about distance and timing and respect, and the kid was too young and too proud to understand the lesson. Here's what you need to know. Jackie guided the striker's overcommitted hook, turned his hips, and redirected the kid's momentum into a spin that ended with the young fighter sitting on the floor, hard, with absolutely no idea how he got there. His tailbone hit the tile and the impact knocked the wind out of him. He sat there, mouth open, staring up. Jackie looked down at him. And I'm not making this up. He offered his hand. He actually reached down to help the kid up. The kid slapped his hand away. That's when Kai moved. Kai came from the side, fast for a big man, throwing a straight right that would have broken a normal person's jaw. Jackie saw it. Of course he saw it. 60 years of training means you see punches the way most people see sunrises. Unavoidable. Obvious. He slipped the punch by turning his head maybe 2 inches, and Kai's fist went past his ear with nothing but air behind it. But Kai was a trained fighter. He followed with a left hook immediately. Jackie leaned back. The hook grazed the front of his hoodie. Kai pressed forward. Right uppercut. Jackie caught Kai's wrist with both hands, stepped to the side, and used Kai's forward momentum to guide him face first into the edge of the table. The table didn't break. Kai's pride did. His forehead hit the table's edge and he stumbled, more shocked than hurt, knocking over the plate of fish and sending chopsticks clattering to the floor. He whipped around, fury in his eyes, and charged again. Here's the thing about Jackie Chan that the movies actually get right. He uses the environment. Everything around him becomes a tool, not because it's choreographed, because that's genuinely how he thinks. He was trained at the Peking Opera School to use every object in a scene. Chairs, tables, brooms, trays. It's not a gimmick, it's architecture. As Kai charged, Jackie grabbed a chair from the nearest table and held it in front of him, not to swing, but to create distance. Kai crashed into the chair. The legs caught him in the midsection and stopped his momentum dead. Jackie pushed forward, driving Kai backward, and then spun the chair sideways, trapping Kai's arms against his body for half a second. That half second was enough. Jackie released the chair, stepped inside Kai's guard, and delivered 3 precise strikes: an open palm to the solar plexus, a forearm to the collarbone, and a soft, almost gentle tap to the side of Kai's neck, not hard enough to injure, hard enough to send a message. Kai dropped to one knee. Now picture this. The biggest, loudest, most aggressive fighter in the group, the leader, the alpha, is on one knee on a restaurant floor, gasping, holding his chest, looking up at a 60-something-year-old man in a gray hoodie who isn't even breathing hard. And the fight had lasted maybe 12 seconds. The wrestler made his move next. Credit to him, he was smart about it. He didn't charge. He shot for a takedown, low and fast, trying to get under Jackie's center of gravity and put him on the ground where size and grappling skill would matter. It was good technique, clean entry, textbook-level change. Jackie sprawled. His hips dropped, his legs kicked back, and suddenly the wrestler was face down on the floor with Jackie's weight on his upper back. The wrestler tried to turn, tried to establish guard, but Jackie had already moved. He was standing again before the wrestler could complete a single transition. And as the wrestler scrambled to his feet, Jackie picked up a serving tray from a nearby table and held it casually at his side. Listen to me. He was holding a metal serving tray the way a medieval knight holds a shield, relaxed, natural, as if he'd been born with it in his hand. The wrestler lunged again. Jackie swung the tray in a short arc that caught the wrestler's reaching hands and deflected them sideways. Then he brought the tray down flat on the top of the wrestler's head. Not hard, more of a bonk than a blow. The kind of thing you'd see in a comedy, but the message was devastating. I can hit you whenever I want, and I'm choosing not to hurt you. The jiu-jitsu specialist hadn't moved. He was standing near the big round table, watching, his taped wrist hanging at his side. He was the most perceptive of the 5. He'd seen the stance, he'd seen the movement, he understood what he was looking at. We should stop, the jiu-jitsu specialist said to Kai, who was still on one knee. Kai, we should stop now. Kai shook his head. He pushed himself to his feet. His face was red, not from the strikes, from humiliation, from the fact that this was happening in front of his crew, in front of cameras, in front of strangers. The worst part wasn't that he was losing. The worst part was that Jackie Chan, the man beating him, looked like he was barely trying. The kickboxer finally stood up from the table. He'd been watching with growing unease, but loyalty pulled him forward. He was tall, long-limbed, with a reach advantage that made him dangerous. He threw a front kick, testing range. Jackie sidestepped it. The kickboxer followed with a spinning back kick that was genuinely fast, genuinely technical, the best technique any of the 5 had displayed all night. Jackie caught the kick, actually caught it. His hands wrapped around the kickboxer's ankle, and he held it, just held it. The kickboxer was stuck on one leg, hopping, off balance, completely compromised, and Jackie looked at him the way a grandfather looks at a kid who just drew on the wall with crayons. Good kick, Jackie said. Then he released the ankle and pushed the kickboxer backward with a flat palm to the hip. The kickboxer stumbled into his chair and sat down hard. He didn't get up again. Kai was on his feet now, but something had changed in his posture. The wide-shouldered strut was gone. His chin was down. His hands were up, actually up, in a real guard for the first time all night. He was finally treating this as a fight instead of a beatdown. Too late. He threw a combination, technical, fast, everything his 12 years of training had taught him. Right hand, left hook, knee strike. Jackie parried the right, rolled under the hook, and when the knee came up, he twisted his body and guided Kai's leg past him, using Kai's own momentum to spin the bigger man around completely. Kai ended up facing away from Jackie, off balance, stumbling. Jackie could have hit him, could have dropped him. He was standing behind Kai with a clean line to the back of the neck, the kidneys, the base of the skull. Any serious martial artist would recognize that position for what it was: total dominance. Instead, Jackie put his hand on Kai's shoulder, gently. "Enough," Jackie said. 2 syllables. Enough. Soft enough that only Kai heard it. Firm enough that Kai's shoulders dropped and his fists unclenched and something behind his eyes broke apart. Because here's the thing about real power. Real power doesn't need to prove itself. Real power is the ability to end something and choosing not to. And in that moment, with his hand on Kai's shoulder, Jackie Chan showed more real fighting skill than any knockout or submission ever could. He let go of Kai's shoulder and stepped back. The restaurant was frozen. Every single person, the customers, the staff, the 5 fighters, all of them standing in the wreckage of overturned chairs and broken dishes and spilled tea, breathing hard, staring at this man in a gray hoodie who had just dismantled 5 professional fighters without throwing a single closed-fist punch, not one. Go back and check. Every strike was an open palm. Every technique was a redirect, a guide, a push. He never tried to hurt them. He controlled them the way a river controls a leaf. And that, right there, that's the moment that separates a fighter from a martial artist. A fighter wants to win. A martial artist wants the violence to stop. Kai stood in the middle of the floor, chest heaving, face slack. The young striker was still sitting on his backside near the wall. The wrestler was rubbing the top of his head where the tray had landed. The kickboxer was in his chair, staring at his own hands. The jiu-jitsu specialist hadn't moved from his spot. And here's where it gets real. Jackie walked over to the restaurant owner. She was standing behind the counter, phone still in her hand, tears on her cheeks. Not from fear, from something else. She just watched a man defend her restaurant, her space, her broken teacup, without destroying anything in the process. Jackie reached into his pocket and pulled out a fold of cash. He peeled off several bills and set them on the counter. "For the cup," he said, "and for the table, and for dinner, there's too." He nodded toward the 5 fighters. He paid for their meal. Let that sink in. The man they mocked, shoved, and attacked just paid for their dinner. The restaurant owner shook her head, pushed the money back. Jackie pushed it forward again gently and closed her hand around it. "Please," he said, "it was good fish." She laughed, a short, shaky, disbelieving laugh that broke the tension in the room the way the first crack of thunder breaks a heat wave. Jackie turned to the 5 fighters. He looked at each one individually. Not with anger. Not with triumph, with something closer to exhaustion. The exhaustion of a man who has spent his entire life proving the same point to people who refuse to learn it. He walked toward the door. He passed within arm's reach of Kai. Neither of them moved. The air between them was heavy, charged, alive with everything that had just happened and everything that hadn't. Jackie stopped. He turned back to Kai. And this is the moment. This is the decisive turn. This is where the story pivots from confrontation to something else entirely. Jackie looked at Kai and his expression softened, his shoulders dropped, and he said something that nobody in that restaurant expected. "You're fast," Jackie said to Kai. "Your right hand is fast. You drop your left shoulder before you hook. Fix that. You'll be better." He gave him a note, a coaching note. In the middle of the aftermath, standing in the debris, Jackie Chan looked at the man who had shoved him and humiliated him and tried to hurt him, and he gave him genuine technical advice. "I've been telling stories a long time. That might be the most powerful thing I've ever described." Kai's chin trembled. His jaw worked. He swallowed hard, and his eyes dropped to the floor. Not from shame, from something worse. From the sudden, gut-wrenching realization that the man he had dismissed as a fake, as a movie star, as a dancing choreographer, was not only more skilled than him in every conceivable way, but was also a better man. "I'm sorry," Kai said, quiet, rough, barely audible. But he said it. Jackie nodded once. He pulled his baseball cap out of his hoodie pocket and put it back on, pulling the brim low. And then he did something so perfectly Jackie Chan that it almost felt scripted. He picked up the serving tray from the floor, walked it back to the nearest table, and set it down neatly. He straightened a chair that had been knocked over. He picked up the chopsticks that had fallen. He tidied the space around him with quick, efficient movements, the movements of a man who had grown up cleaning floors and scrubbing toilets at the China Drama Academy, who had never forgotten where he came from. Then he walked to the door. The young striker, still sitting on the floor, called out, "Jackie, wait!" Jackie stopped, hand on the doorframe. He didn't turn around. "Is it true you did all your own stunts?" the kid asked. Jackie looked over his shoulder, and for the first time that night something warm crossed his face, something genuine, something ancient and tired and proud all at once. "Every one," he said. Then he walked out into the Kowloon night. Now here's what happened after. And this is where the legend grows roots. The cell phone videos hit the internet within hours, multiple angles, shaky footage, bad lighting, but unmistakable. Jackie Chan in a Kowloon restaurant, handling 5 MMA fighters with open palms and borrowed furniture. Within 3 days, the videos had over 20 million views combined. Within a week, 50 million. The comment sections were a war zone. MMA fans claiming it was staged, kung fu practitioners claiming vindication, casual viewers just staring in disbelief. But the people who were there, the ones who saw it with their own eyes, they all said the same thing. It was real, every second of it. Now, if this story moved you, if you felt something watching it unfold, hit that subscribe button. Seriously. This channel lives on people who care about stories like this, and I've got dozens more waiting for you. Subscribe, and I'll keep bringing them. The aftermath changed things for all 5 fighters. The jiu-jitsu specialist quit the gym within a month. He enrolled in a traditional martial arts school, one that taught discipline before technique. He later told a reporter that watching Jackie move that night rewired something in his understanding of what fighting actually meant. The kickboxer and the wrestler faded back into their routines, but neither of them ever talked about the incident publicly. When asked, they changed the subject. Some lessons are too personal to broadcast. The young striker became the most vocal about the experience. He posted a video on his social media, unedited, filmed in his bedroom, no music, no effects, just him talking to the camera for 6 minutes about what it felt like to throw his best combinations at a 60-something-year-old man and hit nothing but air. "I thought I was fast," he said. "I'm not fast, I'm young. There's a difference." That video got 4 million views on its own, and Kai is the one that sticks with me. In the weeks after the incident, he went quiet, stopped posting on social media, stopped showing up at the gym. People who knew him said he was training alone, in a park, early mornings. Someone saw him working on his left hook over and over, hundreds of repetitions, fixing the shoulder drop that Jackie had identified. 3 months later, Kai flew to Beijing. He showed up at the Jackie Chan stunt team headquarters, a training facility where Jackie's personal stunt performers work and prepare for films. He didn't ask for a meeting with Jackie. He didn't ask for a photo or an autograph. He asked for a job, any job, sweeping floors, carrying equipment, whatever they needed. They turned him away. Of course they did. You don't walk into a place you disrespected and expect open arms. But he came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. For 2 weeks, Kai showed up at the front gate of the compound every morning at 6 a.m. and waited until they told him to leave. On the 15th day, someone came out and handed him a broom. He swept floors for 3 months before anyone spoke to him about training. Now, I don't know if Jackie Chan ever knew about this. I don't know if word filtered up to him that the big guy from the Kowloon restaurant was sweeping floors at his facility. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. What I know is that Kai's name eventually appeared on a stunt coordination credit for a mid-budget action film shot in Guangzhou in 2019. Small credit, bottom of the list. But it was there. Here's what I think about when I remember this story. I think about the teacup. That's where it all started. A broken teacup on a tile floor. Kai broke it to prove he was powerful. Jackie cleaned up the pieces to prove something else entirely. Power isn't what you can destroy. Power is what you can protect. And that old man in the gray hoodie, the one eating alone on a Friday night, the one who just wanted some fish and some tea and a quiet evening, he protected everyone in that restaurant. He protected the owner's dignity. He protected the customer's safety. He protected those 5 fighters from the worst versions of themselves. And he did it without breaking a single bone, without closing a single fist, without raising his voice above a conversational tone. 60 years of martial arts training, and the most devastating weapon Jackie Chan deployed that night was mercy. This is the kind of story you hear once and carry forever, not because of the action, not because of the fame, but because somewhere in a side street in Kowloon, a man proved that the highest level of fighting is choosing not to fight. And the 5 guys who walked in looking for someone to mock walked out knowing they'd just met the only opponent that mattered. Themselves. That's the legend. That's the story they tell in late-night noodle shops and training gyms across Hong Kong. 5 MMA fighters mocked an old man in a restaurant. They didn't know it was Jackie Chan, and they never forgot it.